it needed long, vast vistas of New York, of skyscrapers, of when he's going up Third Avenue, you know, trying to hack to pawn the typewriter because he needs money for some more booze. Personally, just between you and me, you know, I much rather shoot inside a studio because I can control it. I don't have to fight the light, which is going all the time, the weather. The sun is going all the time. Or it starts raining, and then you reshoot for the, and then the sun comes out again. You know, you have no control, and you compromise. I'm embarrassed, to tell you the truth, and so are many actors, about shooting in front of a lot of people. I'll tell you a good story about it. Just care for another drink? Okay. Now, this is what happened. We were shooting 7 Year Itch with Marilyn Monroe. And do you remember that famous shot? Do you remember the wind that is lifting her skirt? Well, we were all set up to shoot that thing, you know, on 59th and Madison, something like it. I had, in order to make sure that the skirt is being lifted, not only that there were 5 and ultimately 10,000 people, there were like, there were the electricians and the mechanics who were working the fan down below so that it would work, right? They accepted big bribes of people around. They all wanted to be underneath there and look up Marilyn's skirt. And we did it, and we did it, and did it, and it never quite worked, and people were heckling from the sidelines, you know, and people were running up for autographs, and it was very embarrassing, I tell you. And Joe DiMaggio, who was at that time the husband of Marilyn's, you know, he was watching it, and he didn't like it very much. His wife making a spectacle of herself, and I didn't like the lack of control. I couldn't really get it right. And finally, ultimately, we did that shot in the studio. It was perfect.
But when you shoot in studio, then you ask, for instance, Alexander Trauner to be as precise, as almost as documentary as possible. You see, well, Irma la Douce, you believe you are in Les Halles.
Absolutely. But you see, the beauty of working with Trauner is, who I consider him, of course, the greatest art director. He was working on Les Enfants du Paradis and then the Quai de Brume and all the great pictures. He's the absolute master of the perspective. In other words, when I shot the scene in the apartment with the 5,000 desks, everybody asked me, where did you find that office? You were in New York, huh? Where were you? What building was it? Was it the Rockefeller Center? Was it the new Seagram building? It was on stage 5 at Goldwyn's. But Trauner does something which is unique, and he's the master of the perspective. By that I mean he had 100 desks. Then he had another 200 desks, but in a smaller size, and we had extras who were smaller. Ultimately, they were tiny desks, and they were dwarf extras. And ultimately, at the very end, they were cutouts. They were desks that were about as large as this ashtray, except without the ashes naturally. Tiny little desks and cutouts, you know, and in back of it, you know, you saw little traffic. Things were happening, you know, on strings, you know. He just gave you the illusion. That's when picture making becomes a real fun, you know, that you do it with mirrors. You do it like a magician, you know. You pull rabbits out of hats.
I would like to know the way you develop your script. How does it start, how you get your ideas, and which stages you go through?
Well, you carry ideas with you all along, you know. You've got them somewhere in the back of your mind, in the drawers of your desk. Let's take, for instance, say, The Apartment. Now, I remember many, many years ago, I saw a beautiful picture by David Lean called Brief Encounter. It was the love affair between a married woman and a man, and in order to have their rendezvous of love, they used the apartment of a friend of this guy. That's where they met. Because they could not be seen, they could not go to a hotel or anything like that. And I always thought that the guy whose apartment they used was an interesting character. And I kept that in the back of my mind. I thought that would be a wonderful character by himself, touching and funny at certain moments. And years later, after we had finished Some Like It Hot, I wanted to make another picture with Lemon. And I thought that would be the perfect cast for this character. But that's all I had, was just that one character and the theme of a man who is being exploited, or lets himself be exploited. A man who, upon coming home in the evening, crawls into, also he is lonely and a bachelor, crawls into a bed still warm from the lovers who had been there before.
Where are we exactly here? Is it Malibu?
It's part of Malibu. It's called Trancas. We spend about every weekend here, especially in the summer, just to recover from what I suffered through.
Yesterday we were talking about the way you get your script ideas. And what is your working procedure?
Yeah, to quote Mr. Churchill, it's blood, sweat, and tears, believe me. It is a drag. It is hard work, and it's not one of those kind of things people imagine that muses come and they kiss your brow and there you are, kind of the poet in the clouds. Nothing like it. We just sort of that's Iz and I. You know, when we collaborate, we get to the office like at 9 o'clock in the morning. You know, like employees of a bank, and we sit there and we try to find something. Sometimes nothing. Sometimes we just sit there and wait. Say, Iz, how would it be if the husband... I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
And sometimes the muse does come and kiss your brows, and we just go at it, and we write like 10, 12 pages a day.
When you write a script, do you have an actor in mind?
Most of the time. Certainly we know who the lead is going to be. When you prepare witness for the prosecution, you must know that Lawton is going to play the lawyer, and you write in a different way, knowing that it's going to be Lawton, and that Marlene Dietrich is going to be the wife of the Taipao. We knew that. When we did Some Like It Hot, we started with Lemon and Curtis, and we were hoping for Marilyn Monroe. We were not sure, but thank God we did get her.
Now, I can't do Billy's accent, but anyway, all I know is that this crazy man sat down, and he says, now look, he says, I've got this script here, and it concerns the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and you are a musician, and the other fellow there with you is a musician, and you witnessed the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and what you got to do is you got to dress up and join an all-girl orchestra, because now they know that you've seen it, and they may come, and they're going to they're going to kill you, and so for 85% of the picture, you're going to run around in drag, kid. You want to do it? And for some insane reason, I said yes.
And on the set, how do you work with them? Do you give them a lot of free rein? Of course, it must be different with different actors.
Absolutely. It's very, very difficult to make a set rule, you know. You treat every actor the same way. You know? It's like, you know, like a psychiatrist having various patients of different illnesses on the couch. And you have to be all kinds of things, not just a psychiatrist to them. You have to be a masochist. You have to be an SS man. You have to be a father confessor priest. You have to cuddle them. You have to be sweet to them, be very severe with them. It just depends, you know. They're all, thank God, they're all human beings with different problems.
You like to direct a great number of actors, but it seems that among them, 3 stand out. Walter Matthau, with whom you directed in 3 films, Jack Lemmon in 6 films, and William Holden in 3 films. And they seem to represent 3 different aspects of man, of personality. How do you see them?
It just depends on the picture. You know, if it's a picture about a likable, attractive Schlemiel, naturally, that's Lemmon. If it is a strong, very American, straight-faced businessman, that's Holden. And if I need a funny, slightly devious, kind of everybody's brother-in-law, you take Matthau. You couldn't do better, you know. Those are highly original characters where it does not take an hour to establish their character. It's like putting on an old pair of slippers, if you know what I mean.
You see, Billy Wilder sees me as, and I'm quoting, as a lovable rogue, a scalawag, a con man, a deceiver, and one who should never, in any case, under any circumstances, play the love interest. Now, I disagree with him. But you see, with a director, you can't tell a director, hey, listen, I'm a love interest type. I mean, women go crazy about me. They see in me a large English sheepdog, you know, and they want to grab my body and pet it and play around with me and so forth. He doesn't see that. Billy Wilder doesn't see me as a sex symbol. And all my life, I've been miserable because I always wanted women to jump on me the way they jump on pretty men like Jack Lemmon, you know.
Somehow you had to deal in your career with 2 myths, Humphrey Bogart and Marilyn Monroe, which are the opposite of Matthau and Lemmon, who are much more everyday personalities. I think you had some problems with the 2 of them.
Well, I had problems with Bogart at the beginning of the shooting of Sabrina, because he was not my first choice. My first choice was Cary Grant, but I just couldn't get him. We were sure up until 4 weeks before we started that it's going to be. But he kind of never thought that he was part of what you may call kind of the Wilder clique, people who kind of meet, you know, after shooting and have a cocktail or 2. He had difficulties with the part. It was not natural to him, you know. There was nothing tough. There were no guns, there was no suspense, and there was not that mystique of Rick in Casablanca. Monroe was a whole different story, because Monroe, I had no problem with Monroe. Monroe had problems with Monroe. She had problems with herself. She was slightly discombobulated at all times. She had great difficulties to concentrate. Something was always biting her, eating her. And it was like pulling teeth, you know. But by God, you know, when you were through with her, when you suffered through that thing, through the 30, 40, 50 takes sometimes, or through her lateness, you had something there, you know, something absolutely unique that cannot be duplicated. And you forget after the picture is finished and you had a rough time before. Not that she was mean or anything like that. She would have mental blocks. She really required the greatest of the analysts, or a slew of analysts, not just one, you know, to unravel what was happening within her.
I've never seen him stopped cold, except by Marilyn. We were doing a scene, and all she had to do, when Tony and I were, the camera was on us, she knocks on the door. We quickly throw our wigs on, because we were still disguising ourselves as girls, and say, come in. Tony says, come in. She walks in. The camera now is on her. All she says is, where is the bourbon? Opens a drawer and says, oh, there it is. That's all. Where's that bourbon? Oh, there it is. Well, about take 28, Billy had given her every single conceivable piece of direction.